And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick alongside Katie Greifeld, taking you through to that closing bell with the global simulcast. It starts right now. Carol Massar, Tim Stenovec in the radio room. Welcome to our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms, including our partnership with YouTube here on a potentially record-setting day for the Dow Transportation Average, as well as the S&P 500, and a happy belated birthday to Tim Stenovec.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
It's huge, right?
That record's for you, Tim.
You sort of hid that. It was on Friday.
You did.
You did not mention it to anybody. Are you ashamed of turning 50? What's wrong?
You know
No,
what?
it's just not a big deal anymore when you're a grown-up, you know?
Yeah.
No, I
You're
don't
50?
know.
Except if you're Katie.
I love birthdays.
You make sure that when her birthday rolls around.
No one will ever forget.
Exactly.
I always take that week off, but still, you'll know.
It's a week-long affair,
It's May
I guess.
18th, by the way.
All right,
Anyway.
should we talk markets?
Yeah, why not?
Let's talk markets.
All right, there's a look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We're just pretty much hovering near our best levels of the session here, kind of an even split in the S&P 500. But as you mentioned, we could see some records here.
I will say Katie's husband texted me before Katie did.
Wow.
About my birthday.
Well,
About your birthday?
About my birthday, which was nice of him, even though I work with Katie every day.
Well,
How did he know?
I was sitting next to him, and I actually have Tim's birthday in my calendar because I've forgotten for a few years. And it didn't remind me, but I said to Joe, oh my God, it was Tim's birthday. So he got on the horn.
Thanks, Joe.
Anyway.
All right, on that note, let's get back to the markets here on what is going to be, it looks like, a record-setting day, at least for the S&P 500. Right now, you're looking at an S&P up almost 40 points on the day, or about a half a percentage point. And I do just want to point out, it takes a while for these numbers to settle, and we might actually come up just a little bit short of that record high. Nevertheless, 69.76 and change. We'll get back to those numbers and let you know if that is a record high. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up more than 500 points, or about 1% on the day. The NASDAQ up about a half a percentage point on the day, and the Russell 2000 adding about 1% here on the day.
All right, as we await the markets settling in, just a quick check. We have a little bit more of a bullish tone, if you will. 291 names, Katie, in the S&P 500 higher today, 212 to the downside.
And we are awaiting some earnings here, but let's talk about the sector here. You can see that the energy sector was the biggest loser today, down about 2%. Consumer staples was your big winner, up by 1.6%. You would typically look at that and say maybe that looks a little bit defensive. Not today, though, on a day where you had pretty broad breadth with 8 sectors in the green overall.
And I just want to go back to that, the S&P falling short of that record high by just about 1.5 points, Carol.
All right, good to know. I'm going to go to some of the outperformers. SanDisk certainly on that list. I believe it's the top gainer in the S&P 500 today. I mean, this one just continues to be on a tear, and you can see in today's session, this one up another 15% in today's session. Company is up about more than 180% year to date. That's and it's up about 1,700% since it was spun off last February. It was spun off, of course, from Western Digital. What's interesting is you continue to see analysts coming out, and they have been upping their price targets on the company since it reported earnings on January 29th. 15 analysts have raised price targets by an average of 86%. No analysts have cut price targets on the company. And we did see the 12-month price target is about 675.58 versus about 481 pre-earnings. So just a little bit of context there. Let's go to Western Digital, also an outperformer in today's session. I think this may have been the number 2 gainer in the S&P 500, number 3, forgive me. And that one is up about almost 8% in today's session. This is another one, different in terms of the product offering for SanDisks, but they both have an AI story connected to them. And this one's up about 60% year to date and up about almost 300% in 2025. But again, it has to do with analysts raising their price targets. You've got some
kind of weird that we talk about the S&P 500 for the top 10 stocks, memory stocks, 2 of them actually in the cruise ship space and a couple in the trucking space. Meanwhile, let's get back to, well, whoever else. Elon Musk now confirming that SpaceX, his company, is going to merge with his AI company, xAI. A company memo that Bloomberg has obtained confirms the reporting from last week that Elon Musk's SpaceX will merge with xAI. We'll try to get you some more details on that. And, of course, the potential for what everyone assumes is going to be an IPO at some point this year. Carol?
No, but you know what we wanted to say is, just to add on that, we talked to Ross Gerber over at Gerber Kawasaki, who has obviously
watched that, yeah.
owned Tesla, XAI, and other companies, and he was actually out with a social post today that basically saying, you know, when one of these entities needs money, they kind of turn to Tesla. And I think, you know, he has maybe some questions about, like, he thinks he's an innovator and so on and so forth, but just finds it's interesting that this is what this company continues to do.
Yeah, I guess how consolidated does Elon Musk's empire get ahead of the SpaceX IPO? That's the question I have.
Yeah, I mean, it is fascinating. You think about why this combination might make sense. What's coming from the companies is that you think about SpaceX's ambitions to build data centers in space. XAI plays into that, but it'll be interesting to see, you know, how this wraps all together with that potentially June IPO that SpaceX is reportedly targeting.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of moving pieces, like together, apart, and so on. All right. Hey, listen, I'm going to go back to just one other gainers. It's not a household name. Peakstone Realty, ticker is PKST. This one up 33%, so pretty much finishing at its highs of the session. Shares surging after the Canadian private equity firm Brookfield Asset Management said it will buy the industrial REIT for $21 per share. It's an all-cash transaction valued at about $1.2 billion, so that represented a 34% premium to Peakstone's closing price on January 30th. So kind of moving up, representing that premium. So that was definitely an outperformer.
Okay, well, as we await earnings from Palantir, let's get back to Elon Musk's empire, and that would include Tesla being one of the main decliners in the S&P 500 today. European sales, that slump carried into this year. Registrations of new vehicles plummeted in two of the region's leading markets for battery EVs. Tesla French sales fell 42% in January. Just 661 cars were sold. Norway registrations plunged 88% in January. This is nothing new as people have pushed back against Elon Musk around the world. Romaine, Palantir.
Palantir, the data analysis software company, out with its earnings right now. In the most recent quarter, revenue does look like a beat, $1.41 billion. The street, on average, was looking for 1.33. EPS in the quarter, 25 cents. The street was looking for 23 cents. And EBITDA, also a beat there as well. Going to take a little bit longer to dive into the forecast. And here is that forecast now, crossing the wire. The company says that for the full year, revenue will be in a range of $7.18 billion to $7.2 billion, a tight range that's well above street estimates. The average was 6.27, shares higher by about 3 to 4%.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the after-hours reaction right now, bouncing around, but solidly higher. As we were talking about before this simulcast, remember, Palantir was down about 29% from its November peak. So this was a company that needed some good news. It looks like it's going to get that. I will point out, though, Tim, that even with that sell-off that I just mentioned, I mean, shares were still trading for about 142 times expected earnings. So this is a very pricey stock.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I'm down 30% roughly from those November highs post-earnings last time. Palantir shares higher by as much as more than 5%. 2026 revenue forecast did top estimates. First quarter revenue, $1.53 billion to $1.54 billion. That beat estimates of $1.34 billion. Fourth quarter adjusted earnings per share beat. Fourth quarter revenue beat. Fourth quarter adjusted EBITDA also beat. Shares up more than 5%.
Yeah, and maybe, go ahead, Romaine.
Well, I was going to say, too, I mean, I know everyone talks about that valuation. You're still talking about a company, at least based on traditional financial metrics, is growing at a clip of about 70% year over year. But I'm going through this press release, and particularly some of the commentary by Alex Karp.
Yeah,
as you can imagine, it's bonkers.
It is. I didn't know what it meant.
And we talk about this idea. They are actually going by their Rule of 40 score, and they're basically saying that based on that, their growth is 127%. We are, quote, an N of one, and these numbers prove it. Palantir is alone in choosing to exclusively focus on scaling the operational leverage made possible by the rapid advancements of AI models that we call commodity cognition.
What does that mean, Romaine?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
In some ways, he kind of reminds me of Elon Musk in terms of this big personality CEO who's willing to go and make very bold statements.
Well, I think what's kind of interesting, too, I'm just going to go to the revenue line. We did say it grew 93% year over year, 22% quarter over quarter. Commercial revenue grew 137% year over year. But I want to go to government revenue, which is such a big portion, I think more than half of their revenue, growing 66% year over year, 17% quarter over quarter. one of the things that investors have been concerned about is that they want them to broaden out and broaden away from kind of their government exposure. So we'll see what kind of commentary and color we get on that on the call. All right, maybe we'll get an explanation of that statement, because that's a little
Yeah. Anyway,
question.
decent growth, 34% year over year in terms of customer count. Commercial business also improving as well, up about 145%.